So with the release of the Forbidden Sanctum League, there have been many changes made to the various Atlas passives. Most notably, significant increases to the inherent chance to spawn specific content like Smuggler's Caches, Metamorphs, and Blight Encounters. Because of the aforementioned changes, I decided to invest fully into every single ritual node on the tree, alongside a handful of Searing Exarch and Betrayal nodes in order to test the profitability of a low investment ritual farming strategy. For this video, I decided to run 100 rare T16 maps in order to gauge the proc chance of the ritual passives, as well as illustrate the type of yield that a casual player can generally expect from a ritual focused Atlas setup. As you can see, my build of choice for farming out these maps is a generic Seismic Trap League starter that hardly has the level of clear speed or survivability that you might see in higher end builds optimized specifically for map farming. On average, it took me about 3.5 minutes to clear each map, and if we multiply that by 100, you can see I spent a total of 5 hours and 50 minutes farming out these 100 maps over the course of the past week. This is a screenshot of the loot I decided to pick up after farming out the 100 maps, and here's the rough estimation of the market value of the tab that I deposited all of my loot in. Obviously, this value doesn't reflect the amount of chaos or divine orbs that I expect to liquidate from this tab, but I do think that this estimation serves as a good indicator to how potent the farming strategy is. So across the 100 maps I ran, if we divide the total loot value by 100, we'll be able to calculate that I made roughly 29 chaos per map, not including expenses, which primarily consisted of alchemy orbs and are therefore fairly negligible anyways. I was easily able to oversustain my maps, coming to a surplus of 30 or so maps, most of which were strands or crimson temples due to my favoring of those two layouts. Taking a closer look at the loot breakdown, you'll notice that the two most valuable items on our list are the 2 raw divine orbs that I obtained, as well as the 3 incandescent invitations that dropped as a result of farming the Searing Exarch influence. It is worth noting that I did not allocate Baptized by Fire because my strategy did not revolve around rushing Eldritch Influence progress. What's even more notable is that of the 2 raw divine orbs that I obtained throughout this week, both were derived from the ritual mechanic. Of course, this could be due to insanely lucky RNG, but to think that across 100 completed maps not a single divine orb had actually come from a regular monster drop speaks quite favorably to farming the ritual mechanic. Now, taking a closer look again at the top 5 items on our list, we can see that the next 3 items under our list are raw chaos orbs, awakened sextants, and finally ritual vessels. As we all know, Searing Exarch altars are an extremely potent source of farming raw chaos orbs as well as awakened sextants. However, the reason for why raw chaos orbs are ranked so high on this list can also be attributed to how I interacted with the ritual mechanic. When offered rewards on the ritual UI, the typical priority for how I spent my tribute went something like this. I would first look for a valuable high ticket item like divine orbs, divination cards, or unique items. Then I would look for raw chaos orbs that were usually offered in stacks of 2 or greater. If these weren't available, I would look to purchase ritual splinters in stacks of 50 or greater, and only after this would I finally decide to re-roll the trade window. As you can see, my approach to interacting with the ritual mechanic was one that demonstrated very low risk tolerance and was especially conservative in tribute expenditure. Although I was losing out on the potential of re-rolling a greater amount of times to hit a window that had extremely valuable multi-divine uniques, I was cashing out on the numerous chaos orbs and ritual splinters that eventually compounded to a significant portion of my returns. Now obviously, as with most things in Path of Exile, only with great risk will there be great returns. And although that is a sentiment I wholeheartedly agree with, I think that the less time that I have to invest into Path of Exile on a weekly basis, the more it makes sense for me to be conservative in terms of my risk tolerance. And so that is why re-rolling the trade window is so low on my list of priorities when interacting with the ritual reward mechanic. Now looking back at the top 20 most valuable items on our list, we can see that the majority of the loot is now comprised of items that typically drop in abundance as a result of farming Searing Exarch altars. We have Eldritch Embers, Polaric Invitations, Orbs of Unmaking, Orbs of Regret, Ball Orbs, and Instilling Orbs. Now of course there is also the 2 unique synthesis maps that I got off of the map bosses, as well as 3 raw ancient orbs, all of which came from the ritual mechanic. But one can basically conclude that if we were to exclude the 2 raw divine orbs from our returns, farming the ritual mechanic with low investments is substantially inferior to farming Searing altars. Only by including those 2 raw divines can we really say, okay, maybe ritual farming is about as good as farming Searing altars. Another caveat to take into consideration when looking at ritual farming as a potential low investment strategy or casual farming endeavor is the time it takes to complete the ritual encounters. Even with the various nodes on the Atlas tree that slightly speed up the process of ritual completion, you have to take into account that certain map layouts aren't always the most accommodating accommodating to those who are searching for every single ritual altar and playing under time constraints. Overall, I think low investment ritual farming is okay. The yield is not that bad, but when compared to something like Tujin farming in Expedition, low investment ritual farming just lacks a lot of the upside as well as the ability to save up tribute indefinitely to cash out like you could with Expedition artifacts. That is all for this week's video on low investment ritual farming. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you guys next time.